as a newer hunter or somebody who just started really, diving into it a few years ago, I try to focus on one thing each year so it's not so drastic. I've learned over the years, especially after my first 2 seasons, if you try to just, do a bunch of things at one time, it just becomes really overwhelming. And it seems like the first month and a half of your deer season, every hunt, you're basically just trying to figure everything out instead of being able to enjoy the woods and being able to enjoy what you're doing, the whole reason you're out there in the first place. This year I decided to give one sticking a try, and it was actually just kind of a last moment thing. I had a buddy of mine, he was talking about one sticking and was asking if he could buy one of our sticks, and I told him he could have one of my X2 sticks to basically mod out, and I got thinking about it, and here we are $300-400 later trying to one stick this year. So one of the things you have to have a way to rappel back down the tree because you only have one stick. I'm sure there's a way you could shimmy down the tree and bring your step down as you go or something crazy. I'm sure somebody's done it, but the easiest way is to just get a belay device. They also have manual ones. It's what we used in the military when we did our rappel. We used one of the manual ones with ropes, just bare bones stuff. This is, fancy. This makes it a lot easier, and you can also use this as a Kong duck, like an ascender, something that'll hold you in place instead of a Prusik knot, like a ropeman one, or like a Kong duck. Basically what it does is just allows you to hang in place without having to deal with a Prusik knot, because the Prusik knot don't allow one-handed operation very easily unless you do, like, there are some ways to tend your Prusik knot using your carabiner and stuff that I've seen online. Most people just get an ascender or, a belay device like this. And this one here is called the Vergo, and it's made by a company called Trango. When I got this Trango Vergo, okay, the only thing that's a little frustrating to me, and yes, it is my fault. If you look at this, you will see it says 8.9 to 10.7 millimeters. I do think it's pretty stupid that you put 8.9 millimeters to 10.7 millimeters. Like, are there any 8.9 millimeter ropes out there? I mean, is there a 10.7 millimeter rope? There isn't. I searched. There's no ropes like that I could find. So I ended up getting this 8 millimeter Samson Predator Sonai from hangfree.co. But the issue is it's 8 millimeter. Initially, I thought this said 8.0. So I'm doing research, and there are people that say, yeah, I used 8 millimeter with the Trango Vergo belay device, no issues. And there's other people, they're just literally reading the package and saying, oh, it's not recommended. I know it's not recommended, but I wanted to know would it work. I have the Canyon Elite 9 millimeter rope, and I just so happen to have the 10 millimeter blackout rope. All of this is from hangfree.co. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you real quick so you can just kind of, obviously you can't feel it, but I'm gonna show you what I think. So first what we will do is we will start with this 10 millimeter blackout rope. Now this is just a tether line, but it'll work for what we're about to do here. All right, so we're tethered around the tree. So the way this works is, this is just to rappel. That's your rappel handle. This is the cover, and here's your channel for your rope on the inside. This is where your carabiner goes. So it's like this. That's where your carabiner goes. So you open her up like this, right? And you can see there's an arrow on there, and you want the arrow facing up, and you want the rope to go the way the arrow's going. Basically point the arrow, this channel of this arrow, towards your tether loop up here. Just remember, your handle's gonna go up, right? Your handle don't need to go down here. I'm sure somebody will comment, oh, I use my handle on the bottom all the time. Well, do what you wanna do. This is just what the instructions say. Okay. So now we got our carabiner on here, right? So as you can see here, this is the 10 millimeter rope, the blackout rope. So this is the biggest one I have. It says it supports up to 10.7 millimeters. So this is pushing the high end of it. Now I want you to see, now you can see this right here does nothing. When you open this handle, you can feel it's like a 2-stage type handle. You can see I'm hitting, now I wouldn't do this way up in the tree, but right here I'm standing on the ground. You hit this wall here. Once you hit this wall, if you pull any more, you obviously need to have your hand on the brake side of the rope. Look at this. See how slow that goes? You see how slow that goes? Look at this. I'll do it this way. See, look at that. I'm not even holding the rope. Look at this. Look how controlled that is. Now, obviously, what's the downside? Carrying 40 foot of 10 millimeter rope, you're carrying like an extra pound compared to 8 millimeter, maybe more. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But this right here is, in my opinion, really nice. Now, if I want to open it wide open, I can't. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm trying to show you is there's controls. So now what we're gonna do is the Predator 8mm. Just like the 10mm rope, it holds. It holds good. I mean, I've set out here using this a couple of hours at least, messing with it, seeing if I was gonna be able to use it or not. Now here comes the problem. You need to think being 20-something feet in the air. That's when it hit me, when I actually climbed the tree and I'm like 12, 15 feet off the ground. When I was here, I thought it was good. But once I got 15 foot off the ground and I tried to do the same thing, it scared that dog crap out of me. So I'm gonna try to do the same thing. I'm gonna open it. Okay, even this high off the ground, I wouldn't just reach one hand around like this with this one, just because it's like barely holding. You notice how the other one, I could barely squeeze it. I didn't even have to even hold this really. Well, this one, I can't even hold the rope, like at all. I'm barely even touching it. Look, you notice how the other one, I could barely squeeze it. I didn't even have to even hold this really. Well, this one, I can't even hold the rope. I'm barely even touching it. Barely even touching it. Look. Look. You see, like, it's just, I promise you, if I could use this, I would have used it. I'm telling you, this is, even with it backed up, sure. Are you gonna get hurt? You're not gonna die. You still may get hurt. You know, whether you hit the ground or not, that's a whole nother story, you know. Just because you don't hit the ground don't mean you're not gonna get hurt. I mean, it's just trust me, man. Don't try 8mm on this. So here we are with the Canyon Elite. Now this is 9mm. So here is 9mm, okay? And I wanna show you here, no hands. So it's not quite as good as the blackout 10mm rope. The 10mm rope is, in my opinion, feels the best on this thing. It's so controllable, it feels amazing. This 9mm rope, you know, it feels, you know, it feels pretty good too, but that's good enough. That's all I need right there, right? You know, that's basically as slow as I can get it to go without holding it. That's perfect. But that 10mm just flows better, if that makes sense.
All right, so real quick before we end the video, I've actually been using this belay device for this entire season. We're pushing December. So at this point, I probably climbed a tree 60 or 70 times at least. When I go to buy another rope, I will be buying the 10mm, because one thing I didn't account for, and I guess it's just because I've never rappelled before, you don't really run into this with ascenders because you're just sitting in one spot. It's not really something you notice. I guess when you cinch up your rope, maybe, but I noticed that the more I use the Canyon Elite, especially now that I've used it so much and rappelled so many times, and it seems like it gets a little smaller as far as diameter goes, and it just breaks down altogether. That's what a rope does with normal wear and tear. And now that the rope is broke in, it is pretty quick still. Now I'm a lot better rappelling now and just one sticking in general, so I'm able to control it, and it doesn't scare me or worry me as much. But if I was new, if I started out with the rope that way, I would definitely prefer how the 10mm felt. I would just go ahead and get the 10mm rope, and when I go to replace this rope, I will be getting a 10mm rope. That way, once the 10mm breaks down, it should feel like the 9mm. Wanted to throw this out there for anybody that's looking at this belay device, or really any belay device. I would always get the bigger size so that over time it will break down into a more comfortable instead of just a speed demon, you know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think. As always, God bless. Till next time, peace.